Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new podcast that we're super excited to bring you guys with a cool collaboration between a lot of awesome people and two local companies. My name is Chris Williams. If you don't know who I am, I founded the company Iowa Everywhere. Well, it was like 3 years ago, and I'm going to introduce you now to my friends who you're going to be seeing a lot of. Hey, gentlemen, introduce yourself to everyone.
Welcome. I'm Chris Conetzkey. I'm the president and group publisher for Business Publications Corporation. We produce the Business Record and DSM Magazine, a number of other products as well. And Lawrence?
And I'm the chief growth officer from Business Publication Corporation. I'm Lawrence Cunningham, and I'm excited because we get to announce a really big partnership and something we've been working on for a little while today.
Awesome. And we're all really passionate about local media, and we're really passionate about the state of Iowa, you know, the entire Des Moines Metro, and that was really why we created Iowa Everywhere. What it is, if you're not familiar, we are a group of media personalities, and we kind of specialize in sports. That's kind of what all of our backgrounds came into. But over the years, where we've started building this thing up, we've started to branch out. And Lawrence and Chris and I went to college together. Lawrence, I've known you for a really long time.
I edited your recruitment column senior year.
At the Iowa State Daily.
And I'm sure it was horrible.
Before he got fired.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. So. And I'm sure you edited it very, very hard. We're excited because we, at least I'll let you guys speak for your end of it, but at Iowa Everywhere, we're very, I very much believe that we all need to work together for the betterment of our community. And I think a collaboration between the Business Record and Iowa Everywhere is a great place to start.
Lawrence, you want to tell them a little bit about what we're doing?
Yeah, well, we're excited because we're partnering with Iowa Everywhere to expand how people experience Business Publication Corporation's journalism. And so we are taking the in-depth reporting and the storytelling from Business Record and from DSM, and we're bringing it to a statewide streaming network that will help us reach more Iowans with the best work that we do. And, you know, I had a great business mentor in my life who talked to me about the best partnerships are the simplest partnerships, and that if we look at the world and we can say we can do more things together than we can apart, then we should figure out how to do more things together. And that, I think, is what this relationship embodies. It's the ability to take what BPC does really well, which is the depth and breadth of the journalism that we do, and we get to pair along with the Iowa Everywhere team and your reach and your accessibility and your creativity to really amplify the stories across Iowa that are impacting Iowa. And I think the big picture is this is really about creating a bigger stage for community journalism in Iowa. We believe what you believe, and we're so excited to have the opportunity to partner with our friends at Iowa Everywhere because we both feel passionate about local media, and we recognize the role that local media plays in elevating the most important conversations that move our state forward.
Chris, I think, too, from our standpoint to you guys, this isn't all us helping you. I think there's a lot of people who read the Des Moines Business Record and DSM Magazine who probably don't have any idea what we're doing. So this is exciting to me. A lot of us came from a radio background, from a print background. Not necessarily me. I've always been kind of the wild man out in the digital sphere. But I think this is great from our standpoint too. And I'm excited for a lot of your readers who maybe don't know what we're doing to be introduced to what we're up to.
Tell that story a little bit, because I think how you started is actually really, it's rooted in some of the same ways that Business Record and BPC started as well.
So yeah, and I mean, I started, my career started a long time ago with CycloneFanatic.com, and we turned that into a podcast network. I was doing podcasts before Apple Podcasts were even a thing. We started that thing in 2008. With a little digital voice recorder I was doing a day job, which was at a radio station. That was my background, but my passion was talking about the Cyclones. My passion was, you know, I never wanted to be the guy who I did. Chris was my boss at the Iowa State Daily, not for very long. They kicked me out of there before too long. But I always wanted to go deeper, right? Like I could do a 30-minute show on who the backup linebackers are going to be. Mm-hmm. Podcasting gave me a route to do that. So that's where we started. And then, you know, all of us, Keith, Andy, Chris Hassel with his television background. We've all come from and still are very much working in more legacy type medias. I still work with the Cyclone Radio Network, but we also have been fascinated by all these new opportunities to reach audiences. YouTube has been spectacular for us. The growth we've had on our YouTube channels from day one is really incredible. And when it comes to cutting up clips on social media, I mean, there's all these different ways to reach people with TikTok. We have a huge TikTok channel. And it was just something that what I was doing prior didn't really allow us to do. And I think what's great about what you guys do is you kind of do it all. You've got these thriving print publications, you're doing events, and now you guys are kind of jumping into our world, and I'm excited to help you guys with it. I think it'll be great.
Well, I think that's the benefit for us is we're getting to partner with somebody who has the experience, that has done this for a while and is really leading in the space. And you said go deeper. One of the podcasts will be on the economy. I host the economic forecast every year. And this is an opportunity for us to go deeper into that topic all year long. Usually that happens and we're all done and I got 100 other questions and we can't go further at that. This is the platform that's going to allow us to do some of that. And so that's what we're going to see through Lawrence talked about extending some of those brands that we have, and we'll be bringing all the hosts on here in a little bit so you get to know them. But that's the beauty of this is we already have those great platforms. This ends up providing a way for us to continue that on a different type of platform, and then integrate it across of it. Most people start podcasts, it goes out on into the interweb, and you hope somebody finds it. We're going to be doing them and then infusing that content all throughout our products.
What I'm most excited about with your guys' content, and be honest with you, I just kind of started with the business record when Lawrence came over and I started.
You're entering our target age demographic, just so you know. The average age of business record has stayed the same essentially for the last 30 years, and you're just about getting there. So
I'm there, baby. I'm there. I'm proud. But it'll also allow these hosts that you're talking about, yourself included, I want to get a little personality from you guys. Mm-hmm. And then, in my experience, I think that's why. In the sports world, at least, our brand with Keith and Andy are the perfect example. When Keith Murphy, he's this iconic sportscaster, and he still does that for Channel 13, mm-hmm. and he's the best in the business at it. 20 years ago, it's like the guy he's reading the headlines, right? Well, now these guys have infused their personalities into this, and it makes the audience tied to them even more. So, Lawrence, I just see a major branding opportunity for all of your guys' hosts and shows and reporters to really put their face out there and put a little personality behind the reporting. Yeah,
I agree. I think there's a real opportunity for us just to raise the profile of our people who are telling these stories. Yeah. We recognize that the pendulum in mass media of trust is challenging, right? And so you see the pendulum coming back, and the value of local media is more important now than ever. And so it's important for people to recognize the people who they've trusted for a long time that are telling these stories. And when we look at our events and we look at our engagement, we've it's been really wonderful because we see people coming from all corners of the state to our events. And when we talk to them about what they're doing, they say, hey, we trust you. We like the way you put your conversations together. We get value from those things. So we're willing to drive 2 or 3 hours to Des Moines to participate. So this is us recognizing that we have great engagement across the state, and we're trying to lower the barriers of bringing that content to people and letting them get to know us on a one-on-one basis a little bit more.
Well, and trust is going to be I think that's going to be one of those distinguishing characteristics as we keep going forward in the media space with AI and all the different things that are happening and the challenges with mass media. That's where we're uniquely positioned because people want to know where the news is coming from and they want to trust the people that are behind it. There was a period in time when I was the only one at our company that was getting up in front of a crowd at an event. During the pandemic and as a part of our strategy, we've been putting more and more of our reporters, our editors, different people in our company out in front because we want you to know who the people are behind the company. BPC is a locally owned media company, and it has been, and it's going to continue to be. And that's a critical function because I have to, when we report on something, we host an event, we do a podcast, I'm going to show up and see the people that we're writing about and talking about. And that makes it so much more important that we're doing a really good job of what we're doing. That's not going to always be the case when it's some conglomerate from nowhere USA, right? That's the challenge, I think, going forward, and how we can actually stand out and work together on it.
Yeah, and it's critical. I mean, the challenge that Des Moines specifically has, but really it goes across the entire state of Iowa, gentlemen, is that we have an incredibly engaged community that needs local reporting, and we have local reporting, but the problem is with the conglomerate piece that you just talked about is, where does the investment come from? And one thing I've been impressed about when I've been talking with you guys is we've been kind of building this partnership, and I couldn't thank our group and our ownership team and Jason Luch and John Liebel and Chris Hassel and Keith Murphy and Andy Fales, where we continue to invest in what we're doing. And you guys are on a daily basis, like, I'm amazed by how much you're putting back into the reporting. And that really, that's kind of the difference. We have journalists all over the state who work really, really hard, who need to be supported. And I think in the next 10 to 20 years, we're just going to see more of these local companies. And I hope we can all continue to work together, for the betterment of the community.
Well, and this allows us to invest in different ways into journalism. So we invest into the newsroom at a rate that's higher than our peers. There's an association called AABP, the business journals all across the country. We make a consistent effort to invest into the newsroom and invest in that space, because we know that the great content is the reason why people are engaging with the brand. And so as we think about this space, it allows us to bring in one of our hosts, Lisa Fox, is not salaried with Business Record, but she's a great person. She's going to do a great job hosting that show. She's got great expertise. We're bringing her in so that we can go deeper into manufacturing. That's something we couldn't do through a traditional lens of the way that we're doing it. We're investing in our newsroom just in a different way.
I can't wait. Are we going to meet some of these people?
We're going to get everybody in today. We're going to introduce
Awesome.
everybody, and they can know what to expect from the shows.
Awesome. Well, follow us at Iowa Everywhere too, if you're into the sports stuff. But we're gonna we'll continue to educate the audience on how we're all gonna collaborate and all that good stuff. But let's check it out, guys. Let's see what we got on the docket here with the Des Moines Business Record. DSM Magazine. Am I missing anything else? You got a bunch of stuff going
Those are
on.
the two primary brands. So you
Okay.
got-
Yep.
In Iowa Everywhere, we're all coming together as one.
Well, we're so excited. We've made the announcement now about the new streaming network. We have 6 shows that BPC is going to be bringing to the Iowa Everywhere network and across all of our platforms. We've got a great opportunity now to meet some of the hosts. And our first host here with us today is Suzanna de Baca. She is going to be hosting the dsmWealth podcast. Suzanna, welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
And back. Suzanna's our former CEO, and we're so grateful to have her participating. There's nobody I could think of better for this show. So, Suzanna, tell us a little bit about the Wealth Podcast and what you're hoping to achieve.
Well, I'm very excited about the DSM Wealth podcast. This podcast is a year-long conversation series. It's really designed for high net worth individuals, rising executives, or what we call purpose-driven leaders, all about how to save and invest, protect your finances, and leave a lasting legacy.
Well, to talk a little bit about your background, because I said you're perfect for it, but why don't you share a little bit about what makes you such a great fit for this?
Well, many of the DSM magazine and Business Record readers know me as the president and CEO of Business Publications. But prior to that, I spent nearly 3 decades in asset management and finance at many Wall Street firms. And I not only managed money for high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, but I also managed businesses. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And in addition to giving you good information and news, one of my passions is helping people sort of demystify money and figure out how to live a life of meaning that they want.
Suzanna, we're so excited because of your depth and breadth in the finance space. And so tell us a little bit more about why are financial discussions so important right now?
Well, financial discussions are always important. Money can be very intimidating, but ultimately it's a tool to help you build the life that you want. Financial instruments, whether it's investments or insurance or estate planning, can be very intimidating, though. And when people are so busy and there's a lot of volatility in the world, it's even more important now to have the opportunity to talk about, well, how do you you actually save? How do you think about investing, protecting your money, and then pass it on in a meaningful way?
Well, I think a lot of times people think about wealth through the lens of retirement specifically, and there's kind of this definition of what retirement looks like or used to look like. And one of the things that's popped up as we've been planning this is redefining your relationship with the word wealth and with money. And, I think if you could give us a little bit of a peek into some of the topics that you're hoping to address, I think that'd be a great way for us to wrap.
The word wealth sounds very heavy, but this is really just about your relationship with money, whether you're just starting out, whether you're sort of in the middle of your journey, or whether you're nearing retirement. It's trying to figure out, how to manage your life. We're going to be focusing on 4 major topics. One of them is lifestyle alignment and legacy building. So what kind of life do you actually want? One is values-based investing. How do you invest in things that are meaningful to you? We'll look at generational wealth and estate planning. And then finally, philanthropy, that's a hard word to say, and impact giving. So how are you giving back to the community and doing great things with the money that you have made and accumulated, even if it's small or even if it's great?
Well, dsmWealth is going to be launching in January. You're going to see those episodes start to come out then. It's also going to be infused into DSM Magazine and dsmWealth e-newsletter across all our social platforms. So, Suzanna, we're looking forward to seeing the first episode, and grateful to have you back on the team.
Thank you, and hope that everyone pays attention because your money matters.
Thanks, Suzanna. All right, next, we're going to bring on Lisa Fox, who's going to be hosting our Made in Iowa podcast. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Well, Lisa, I know you and Lawrence go back a long time, but why don't you give a little bit of your background and about why you're the right fit for this spot?
I am a geeky, passionate person about manufacturing. I love the operational aspect. I love the workforce. I love the stability that it gives to rural Iowa. And a lot of people don't understand that it's one of our largest contributors to our GDP. And so I will preach it from the rooftops that careers in manufacturing matter. And it's a great thing for our economy.
Well, manufacturing, as you alluded to, largest industry in the state. We often cover that in the business record through the lens of when we're talking about manufacturing, other businesses, how can they learn about what's going on, because it ultimately affects their business. Tell us a little bit about the lens you're going to be looking at it through for manufacturers.
Every lens, hopefully, but I want to become a resource. So the opportunity to share best practices amongst these leaders from an HR perspective, from an operational perspective, but then also I want to be a conduit for resources for these manufacturers. They've got one of the most challenging and complicated operational systems. So to bring them resources is super helpful.
Lisa, you're a recognized face in manufacturing, and for my money, you're one of the best advocates that the state of Iowa manufacturers have, and so we're so delighted to have you here. Made in Iowa is a new brand for you, right? So tell us a little bit more about how you think about Made in Iowa.
I'm excited to extend the manufacturing lens to anything that is made here. So that can extend to construction, it can extend to technology, it can extend to food and beverage. So now I'm going from things manufactured in Iowa to really anybody and anything, which is super exciting for me.
I think it's going to be really fun to broaden the lens around what we consider manufacturing, because as we've seen some of the early interviews, we've recognized that different people think of manufacturing in different ways. And so maybe a sneak peek is if you listen to the music that we have going on, we've got some of our own local musicians that are creating the music beds for your podcast as well.
Absolutely. I've known the guys over at the Nadas for a long, long time, and they have very generously agreed to allowing me to use their music anytime I create a podcast. So
because they're made in Iowa.
They are made in Iowa. All those songs are made right here. And, you know, I've been doing the Iowa Manufacturing Podcast for 3 years, and this is just an opportunity to amplify the stories that have been told and extend that message to an even broader audience. So super, super excited for this partnership.
And I have to tell you, I'm glad that you mentioned the Iowa Podcast Network, because we're so excited to have more people in the market talking about manufacturing. We know how important that is. And so whatever we can do to raise the profile of more people having more conversations around manufacturing, we think that's going to help all of the people that are working in that space.
A high tide lifts all boats.
Lisa, give us a little sneak peek, perhaps, at a couple of the episodes that are going to be coming out.
Nicole Crane is a good friend of mine. She is over at the Iowa Association of Business and Industry, where I spent 11 years. So we reconnect and we get to learn everything that ABI is doing to really foster that economic engine for manufacturing in the state of Iowa. Renewablade comes on, and this is an amazing company that is taking those huge wind turbines that you see rolling down the interstates. They grind them up and they're creating jersey barriers and retaining walls from the waste. And so it's helping on a ton of different levels. We just interviewed the folks that organize and operate an organization called Fable. It's a THC drink. And so we're going to talk about that industry.
I think the real question is, were you drinking the drink during the interview?
Yes, I was. I can endorse it wholeheartedly.
All right. Well, I think I appreciate that. We're so glad to have you part of the team for this. The Made in Iowa podcast is going to be weekly, and you're going to start seeing that infused into our products as part of our effort to make sure that we're covering what is the largest industry in the state. So, Lisa, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. So excited. Thanks to both of you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right. Next, we're going to bring on Michael Morain. He's our DSM editor, and he is hosting our Iowa Stops Hunger podcast. Michael, welcome.
Hello.
Great to have you here. I hope Iowa Stops Hunger isn't new to our audience. We launched that in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, when there was so much pressure. Of course, now there's even more pressure on food insecurity for people here in the state. You're going to be hosting this show. You've been participating in creating the publications for a number of years. Tell us what you're hoping to accomplish with it.
Right. This is as you mentioned, we launched the initiative probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it's an opportunity to shine a light on some of the real problems that Iowans face with food insecurity. Right here in the heart of the heartland, there are people who are going hungry, but there are also a lot of people, really smart people and organizations who are working hard to make that a little easier for folks. So ideally, this podcast or this video series, we can continue to cross-pollinate good ideas, especially across the state. If one project is working here in Des Moines or in Cedar Rapids or Council Bluffs, we hope to inspire other people in other communities to take up those ideas and keep working to find solutions to a really tricky problem that affects a lot of people, even here in Iowa, in surprising ways.
Well, I think you hit it perfectly. One of the things as we got into reporting on the issue and the challenge is there isn't a silver bullet. There's not one specific answer that's going to solve this challenge. It has to be from a variety of different levels and a variety of different ways. I know that's part of the effort of the podcast, but often we've used written word, and we're going to continue to do that as well. How do you think the podcast can help bring this issue to light in maybe a different way?
With this format, I have the privilege of interviewing people, so I get to hear people in their own words, and often that lands differently than reading a printed article or in paper or on a digital screen. Often we've found that with the people who really find solutions or are really committed to helping feed more people, often it's that spark of what originally inspired them. In many cases, the solutions, people are doing their work or they're volunteering in an organization, and they figure out a way to wander out just a little bit outside of their lane and do something that's a little bit in addition to what they are already doing. So people don't set out to solve world hunger, but often the solutions are just figuring out how to bend a little bit, or if they see an opportunity to expand their reach, or to connect the dots in a different way. Hearing those stories in people's own words, we hope, can inspire more of that. So that lands differently when you hear it in people's own voices.
Michael, I love when you talk about and frame up what we're trying to accomplish here. And really, BPC as a business, we play an important role as a community connector. And so when you talk about our ability to shine a light on stories that maybe not everybody knows about, that's a great way to represent what we do. Can you talk just a little bit about some of the stories that have been most inspiring to you?
Sure. In our first batch of sessions, we kind of brought our printed publication to life. And one of the most eye-opening, for me at least, we interviewed some of the folks with, with Lutheran Services in Iowa who have established really thriving community gardens around Greater Des Moines, including spaces where new immigrants or refugees have space to grow crops that they recognize from their home countries. So for them, it's a way to help them feel at home in this strange new land we call Iowa. And with that, they can produce foods that are culturally relevant. We've found that in some food pantries, a lot of the traditional supplies or the staples on the shelves don't look familiar to some of the people who need them most. So there's been some cultural sensitivity about providing food that people recognize and that really fits into different cultures that are here in Iowa. We have an interview lined up in the next couple of weeks with an expert from Iowa State, a history professor, who's going to take us through and explain some of the origins of SNAP. And different food assistant programs. This is certainly not my expertise, but it's fascinating to find how people in earlier generations stepped up to the challenge and figured out just the problem-solving puzzle of it to help a challenge that really is affecting lots of people and has for generations. So we won't solve it, but ideally we can find some inspiration and some examples from people who have figured out how to help in their own corner of the world.
Well, you've done a great job highlighting some of the great episodes that are going to come out. Iowa Stops Hunger, there are going to be 5 initial episodes that are all out right now that people are going to be able to go ahead and consume. As Michael alluded to, they're based off the publication, Iowa Stops Hunger custom publication. Into next year, there's going to be 1 episode per month. You're going to see that coverage within the Business Record, within DSM Magazine, and across our digital products and social platforms too. So the effort on Iowa Stops Hunger isn't stopping, and the podcast is just a new tool that allows us to continue to bring those conversations across the state, but of course, whenever somebody wants to download them. So Michael, great to have you on board, and excited to see what you do here.
I want to give just one plug before my segment's done. This is a community effort. So really, listeners or viewers, readers, if you have ideas or if you know about organizations or people who are working in this area, please let us know, because we want to build our collection of stories and sort of spread the credit where it's due. So if you have ideas, please let us know.
And I think Michael makes a great point there. It's not always some giant initiative with a lot of money backing it. Sometimes it can be something small. Sometimes there's no money backing something. It's just an idea that can spread. So if you've got ideas, you can reach out to Michael Morain at bpcdm.com. All right, we're going to go bring our next host on for our next podcast, our Fearless podcast. Welcome.
Hello.
This is great. This is a little bit different format. We've got 3 hosts. I'll let you each introduce yourself, actually, and I'll start with Emily Wood. Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily Wood. I am the Special Projects Editor at the Business Record and have been working on Fearless since it launched 5 years ago. Really excited to bring this podcast to life.
And why don't we have Macy introduce yourself as well?
Yes, I am Macy Shofrath. I'm the Fearless Editor here at BPC, and I also get to work with the graphic design team, and I am the one who's putting Fearless together every week and excited to dig even deeper into these stories.
And a special treat, we've got a third co-host here, Ladrina.
Hello, I am Ladrina Wilson. I am an entrepreneur and a professional speaker, but most importantly, I am a girl's girl. So that's what I bring to this podcast and this conversation.
Well, Ladrina was at our Fearless event a couple weeks back. You did a fantastic job leading the exercise. I've been thinking about the stretch exercise for a while. Maybe you can tell us about that another time. But Emily, you've been working on Fearless for a number of years. This is a new platform for it. Tell us a little bit about Fearless and then what you hope to accomplish with the podcast.
Sure. So our goal with Fearless is to empower Iowa women to succeed in work and life. And that's quite a lofty goal, but we do that, one bite at a time, really, with all of the stories that we tell in Fearless. We dig into lots of different issues related to gender equity. And really our goal is to tell inspiring stories about women and gender nonconforming people across the state, and being able to uplift some of the issues that women are facing and have conversations about those, but really just open the conversation so that people can leave feeling empowered and inspired, and also maybe learn something new about an issue that might not affect them. So a lot of what we have done in Fearless and the stories that we've told to date have been great at exposing people to those new perspectives. But sometimes those conversations are best lent to this format where we actually can have a discussion and go back and forth. And when you can hear someone telling their story, that sounds a little bit different than reading it in print. So we're excited about this format to share those stories.
Well, I know one of the things we've talked about is the nuance that often comes in some of these conversations, and sometimes even trying to write it can actually be harder than talking about it and digesting and kind of swirling around it. And so I know that this platform is going to give you a little bit of that opportunity to do that. Ladrina, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what about this opportunity is something that made this something you wanted to participate in?
Yeah, I was really excited about this opportunity for a few reasons. One, I live on the eastern part of the state, so we often hear nothing happens outside of Des Moines. So we're here to debunk that myth, and it really is a statewide approach. So I think that's one thing that was important to me. But really, women find psychological safety in community and in friendships. And when we encounter stress, we tend to have more of a tend and befriend approach over a fight or flight. And I think a platform in the form of a podcast creates that sense of community. It deepens the connections to individuals being able to have a platform to tell their own stories. But then ultimately, this form of communication is a way for us to nurture relationships and learning across the state. And so that's what I'm most excited about.
Macy, I wonder, you've been doing so much work in helping to build content for Fearless. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're hoping this platform and this podcast in particular can help do to raise the profile of really important conversations in this space?
Yeah, I describe my job often as I get to tell stories about incredible women doing incredible things. And I think we underestimate how many incredible women there are in Iowa doing incredible things. And so I think giving these people an opportunity to have their face seen and their stories heard and make sure that they're reaching the communities that they need to reach is an honor. And I hope we get to take, like Ladrina said, people from all across the state, not just Des Moines, and give them just the space to really elevate what they're doing for their communities.
Emily, I wonder if you could give us a little bit of a peek into the future on some of the episodes and some of the things you're going to be talking about in the first few.
Sure. So one of our first podcasts we're calling it The Lonely Only. We know that a lot of women in particular can find themselves being the only in a room, whether that's the only young person, the only woman, the only person of color. And we feel like that's an important conversation to start off with. And that was a question we actually had from an audience member. So that's one thing we're really hoping to do is dive into questions that folks want us to talk about. So we encourage people to reach out with those. Another one of our conversations that we just had is about complex identities and how we all hold different sets of identities and backgrounds that we come into experiences with, some that are seen and some that others might not know about us, and how that affects how we navigate the world and how we might navigate adverse experiences. So we have a lot of those kinds of conversations, and looking forward to also digging into some newsier topics like childcare and other policy-oriented discussions.
I'm really excited about the negotiations one. I just have to say that women, we're lousy at negotiating, and we're going to have someone on that's going to help us learn to be better at it.
That'll be a Connie Weimer, for Connie Weimer, our owner. That'll be a favorite of hers. That's some of her best advice that she always gives. I think I might tune into that one too. I'm sure I'll be able to take away some tips from that as well. So I want to thank all three of you for being here as part of this. Fearless is just one of the most rich things that we do because of the intentionality behind it. I know the intentionality be behind the podcast as well. So I encourage you to tune into it. The e-newsletter itself, you can subscribe to right now. That comes out every Monday morning, as Macy alluded to. We have events throughout the year as well. And so this podcast is just going to help extend that. You'll see some of that content showing up there. So thank all three of you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have our editor, Sarah Dean. She's going to come on and talk about the Iowa News Headlines podcast. Sarah, welcome.
Hi, good to be here.
Well, Sarah, you have been editor now for the Business Record for just about a year, and this is a brand new podcast. So tell us a little bit about the Iowa News Headlines and what we're hoping to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal with the Iowa News Headlines podcast is we know that the Business Record and DSM Magazine, we have a lot of products across BPC. So we know there's a need to help our listeners and readers help wade through those and get to the news that they need most. And one of the things that we excel at the Business Record and that I've seen us do very well in my 4 years here is make sure that we're providing that context and different level of reporting that allows our readers to not only be informed, but be able to go out and make decisions. So we're aiming with this podcast to still provide that kind of layer of context, but in that quick, digestible and focused format of here are the, your essential briefing for the week, and give people that resource to have on a weekly basis.
Well, I've started to make this comment more and more, but when I was the editor of the Business Record at one point, and I used to get to say I read every single thing we published. I'm to the point now where it's almost impossible for me to read every single thing we publish, and I no longer review everything that goes out the door for both Business Record and DSM. So the reality is keeping up with everything that's going on. We cover things like we're doing here. Sometimes we're going to be slicing off and talking about manufacturing or Fearless in a very deep way that is for a niche audience within our niche. And so it does make it kind of tricky sometimes to follow along with everything that's going on. So I'm excited to see what happens here.
Well, this is one of the podcasts I'm most excited for because we've heard so much from our readers and our subscribers and our friends in the community that they need this quick 15-minute update. And so I love how you've been thinking about it and you've been piecing it together. Sarah, can you tell us a little bit more about how we landed and when we're going to launch this or when we're going to do this over the course of the week?
Yeah, so our regular cadence will be to release a new podcast each Wednesday. So we'll have one out this week, maybe one day after. But moving forward, we'll have one on Wednesdays. And our thought with that was, Fridays are typically for a lot of publications, a big publication day. And we're publishing throughout the week. So we know that there's going to be other things coming out any day that we choose to publish. But we really felt that the middle of the week would help us kind of deliver that, be a good point in the week to deliver that update for people. And then that also gives us the ability to help listeners know, here are some things that are coming up in the Business Record. So that might be something with our print edition. If we have a special story or series coming out, maybe it's events. And we also just wanted to infuse, maybe a little bit of lightness and fun and, tell you about some of the things that that are just happening in the community that you would want to know about. So we hope it's a, really well-rounded approach and something that everyone's able to take something away from.
Well, and I know one of the things that we will infuse into that is we're often aggregating some of the news from across the state in some other products. And so I know that's going to be part of what gets infused into this. Tell us a little bit about how we plan to do that.
Yeah. So as part of our daily newsletters, we're rounding up your statewide news as well. So there's a natural fit there for us to help give a lens into what are the things that you need to know from that perspective and from the statewide perspective. Iowa's not a huge state, but there's 99 counties and there's a lot of news going on across the state. So, and a lot of that ends up being interconnected in some way because we aren't, a California or a Texas. So the businesses in Des Moines are affected and interacting with businesses outside of the metro areas, and vice versa. So I think this will be a great resource for a lot of different audiences. I know that's a goal for us is to help people outside of our Des Moines market also get the news that they need and know who they need to connect with here and across the state.
Well, Sarah, thanks for sharing a little bit about what the Iowa News headlines is going to be. I'm excited to look forward to that one coming out each and every week. That leaves just one podcast left, and so this is where we have to do the kind of switcheroo.
Yeah.
And Lawrence is going to interview me because I get an opportunity to host one as well.
Well, and so Chris is going to be leading up the Iowa Economy podcast, which is really an outcrop of our economic outlook conversation. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
Yeah, so the Iowa Economy podcast, I've had the opportunity to host our economic forecast luncheon each and every year. We do that in January. We have 5 or 6 panelists, and every year I prepare questions for that, and it's got about 10 pages worth of questions because I've got to kind of be ready for anything at that point, especially right now in this environment. And at the end each year, I have tons of topics that I didn't get to ask the questions about. I didn't get to ask the panelists to go deeper onto. They'll bring up points, and we just don't have time in an hour and a half to be able to do that. But the economy doesn't stop in January when we do the forecast. It's consistently evolving. And we don't necessarily have a reporter on staff that covers the economy. This is one way that we're going to thumb the scale towards making sure we're covering what's happening in the economy and the effects on Iowa, but more importantly, what you need to know to kind of try to stay ahead of that curve as best as possible. Nobody has the perfect glass ball, right, for what's going to happen, but one of the things I believe most, and this is for all of our products, but specifically the economy too, is when people have good information or as good of information as they can have, they can make better decisions for their business and they can plan and be proactive, not just always reacting to what's happening in the economy. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this podcast. So
you touched on the importance and the challenge of economic conversations. The landscape changes really quickly in the state of Iowa. Can you, and everywhere, can you talk a little bit more about how this format can add value to our audience in terms of being able to stay up to date?
Yeah, so we're going to plan these in a monthly cadence so that truly we're going to do it in a way so you get an update on what's going on, but also a look ahead to the future. So in each one right now, we're planning to bring an economist along with a guest that is being impacted by the economy or that we think might be an indicator for what is happening in the economy. So you get a little bit of both in that equation. So we're going to plan it on a monthly basis, but the reality is right now as we're sitting here, the government shutdown and what's all going on in the world with that's happening right now. Once we have this up and running, if we have an opportunity to react to something that's going on, we'll be able to just go, let's bring a couple of our economists on. So our team, Sarah Dean is helping us here, and Gigi Wood, our economic development reporter, and they're putting together a database of economists in the state so that when we have this, we can just react. And in the past, we would go and we would try to write a story, and it would take 3 or 4 calls, and you've got to coordinate schedules and make that all happen. We'll have the ability to do some rapid reaction if necessary and when it matters. And right now, there's a lot happening.
You bet. You have several of these already recorded and in the queue. Can you tell us a little bit about what to expect with some of the guests and what you're most excited about people taking from those episodes?
Yeah, so we've getting my brain back here a little bit. The most recent one we recorded was with Christopher Prudence. He's the economics lead for the Iowa Farm Bureau Federation. He was on our economic forecast panel, and then Jason Andringa, the CEO at Vermeer, also joined us as well for that one. And so right now the ag economy is such a key component of things. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring Christopher back was he was one of the guests. He had the quote of the economic forecast about when the ag economy. Yeah, I'm not going to get it right, and I butchered it when I was doing it.
When ag sneezes, Iowa catches a cold. I think.
Thank you.
Right? I'll never forget that.
You remembered it.
The quote of all time.
So we got to bring him back and go, okay, at that time the tariffs were just going into place. And there was just a lot of the speculation about what might happen. So to be able to ask him, did what happened meet what your expectations were? Was this better, worse? What's going on now? It was nice to be able to touch back to that point. So that's an example of a way that we're able to do that. And at the same time, be able to talk to a CEO at Vermeer. A lot of people think of the hay balers that they create and think they're primarily in the ag space. They actually have a lot of different services. They're servicing their equipment helps with data centers and digging all the lines for power, energy, and so they're really well diversified, and so they're impacted in a different way. But they're actually, because they've diversified and they've put money back into R&D, they're being impacted by the economy in a very different way. So using them as a bellwether, you can start to see where there's strength in the economy and where there's pieces that are maybe still in challenge. So that's one of the episodes. We've got a NPR reporter that we're able to bring in. So that's another aspect of this, is we can bring in people from across the country. And so a lot of our companies here have resources and offices or have connections across the country outside of the state, and that could be really valuable to provide a lens back at how we're performing as well.
I think that's a perfect point to end on. I know that you're passionate about the Iowa economy. We're so excited that you're willing to do this. Sometimes being the president of the company has its benefits, because I know you're quick to claim this one because it's such a passion area for you. Thanks for your time and for your willingness to do this. I think it's going to add so much value to our community.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's already getting to do it. It's to the point where I'm going, well, maybe I should be doing this weekly. I know that's a bad idea for me to do that, but I do know that there's, like I said before, when you can stay ahead because you've got information to make better decisions, that's when we're in our sweet spot. That's what we try to do across all our products. This is just one lane that we're able to thumb the scale for, helping people stay up to date with the economy. So we're excited to do that. We're excited for all the podcasts. You're going to be able to find these anywhere you get your podcasts. So that's going to be Apple, Spotify, and as we said, these will be video as well. So on YouTube, on our website, and most importantly, these are going to be infused across our products. So even if you're not catching the episode, you're going to be able to see that within our e-newsletters and online and in our print products. This is our effort to make sure that we're going deeper into some of those different verticals that we helped showcase today.
Yeah, and I think so much about this initiative is it's really the BPC Streaming Network on Iowa Everywhere. It's really taking advantage of the accessibility and making sure that we can lever that so that more Iowans can consume this content, because that seems to be the number one ask that we have, and we're really excited to move forward in this way. We're so excited that you all tuned in, and so join us next time on the BPC Streaming Network on Iowa Everywhere.